President Santos, which is the new president of Colombia, understands what we are trying to do. And he wants to have dialogues with the guerrillas in Colombia, but he's not going to do that now. In my opinion, he's asking for a second term of president of the country. And he knows that if he starts now having dialogue with the guerrilla, because of the division of the civil society in Colombia, he's going to lose the possibility of a new election, of a re-election. This is important because this gives you an idea of the influence of the political processes in the situation of solving a conflict in a country like ours. There are two significant, I would say, realizations of actions in the last 3 or 4 months in Colombia. The native people in Colombia, the indigenous people in Colombia, started a process they call the People Congress. And they joined about 30,000 people in the city of Cali, in the south of the country, inviting everybody there to a message of stop the war in Colombia. They are very radical in this message because they have suffered a lot from the contradiction and the conflict, especially between the FARC people and the indigenous communities. And there is an also interesting initiative, which is called the Patriotic March in the country. About a month ago, nearly 40,000 people came to Bogota. They were very well organized. They were in the central plaza of the city for about 8 hours. And after the meeting, they left everything clean and very well ordained, just trying to get the message that they want peace in Colombia, and they are already prepared to negotiations. This is important because it's for the first time we got the people who are suffering the war in Colombia, the internal conflict, I mean communities, people who give families, who give their daughters and sons to the guerrillas and the paramilitaries. People who are suffering the existence of anti-personal mines, people who know about kidnapping. And these people are now coming to the central capital of Colombia asking for political negotiations and dialogues for the solution of the conflict. But this is not going to be easy because half of the population in Colombia now oppose any sort of dialogue with the guerrillas and are asking for total extermination of the guerrilla people in our country. I know that the cocaine business is also present in all of this, and the mafia people. But my experience, having several discussions with the guerrilla leaders in Colombia and also with the paramilitary leaders in Colombia for about 20 years, I know that the basic ideology they have, the guerrillas, is not cocaine business. They are helping themselves. They are using the cocaine in order to fuel the war. And I hope the new president of Colombia is going to have the courage to initiate these negotiations and dialogue in Colombia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pacho, for sharing with us the details of the situation in Colombia. I'm going to go straight on to Mauricio Salazar, our third speaker. Mauricio is a special advisor for Servicios y Asesoría para la Paz, Serapaz. He's responsible for the international area of Serapaz, a Mexican civil organization for conflict transformation and the empowerment of social actors in the conflict situation in Mexico. He also currently serves as the regional representative for GPPAC in North America. And Mauricio is going to talk to us both about Mexico and some of the conclusions from the meeting in Panama.
Thank you very much. Hi everybody. And I have two difficulties to explain the situation in Mexico in 10 minutes. But Jenny gave me yesterday 12. And to explain the conclusions of the Panama meeting. So I will try to do the best. I am very happy to be here and to have the opportunity to highlight some points of the discussion. But I know after lunch you are more sleepy than hearing to the inputs, so I will put some examples. Perhaps you can understand better which situation we have in Mexico. Mexico is a very big country with 140 million inhabitants, and is the neighbor to the US, the south neighbor from the USA, with one of the biggest borders in the world, more than 3,000 kilometers, with trafficking from human beings and trafficking of drugs problems. And we are having elections this Sunday, president elections, so it's one component more for the difficult to explain how is the situation. But anyway, I want to put two examples. This is the story of Maria and Juan. Maria is an indigenous woman of Oaxaca in the south of Mexico, and Juan is from the Sierra of Guerrero, also in the south. Both were looking for work to help their families to cover the needs. She, Maria, found one job as a worker in one of the maquila industries in the north of Mexico, sewing clothes for the export. She moved from Oaxaca to Tamaulipas in the north of Mexico. She used to work for a long term. She finished every day at 9 o'clock in the evening. On the way home one day, she just disappeared and stopped sending money home. After working 2 years in Tamaulipas, she always sent money to her family, and she also used to phone every weekend to say that she is okay in Tamaulipas. Some friends of Maria saw men in police uniform that kidnapped Maria, and they were very worried. The family were also very worried about the situation and trying to find her. They attended to the authorities to find out what happened with Maria. The district attorney said to the family, she is surely well. She just went with his boyfriend. After 1 year, she hasn't appeared, but there is an investigation done by the police. She is part of the 20,000 people disappeared in the last six years. The family requested help of a civil organization, and they began the process to request for justice. The mother of Maria is now organized in a huge organization of relatives of victims of 4 disappearances. A crime which is still not tipified as a crime in all Mexican states. The organization who support the family for justice pressure the states responsible, and now this organization is becoming exchange phone calls with the message to stop putting the nose in these issues, otherwise they will have to assume the hard consequences. After a year, we don't know what happened with Maria, and there is no responsible for her disappearance. Juan found a job selling products of construction. He also sent money to his family in Guerrero, and one day he also disappeared. But he was found. His body was abandoned on a farm. It was the work of a civil organization who was supporting in the identification of 270 bodies that have been found in this farm, that they found out that is the identity of Juan. After a year of this massacre, we haven't any responsibles found. Juan family needs the financial support But they lost one, and they lost also the support without any reparation, without having justice, and without having any responsible for this crime. The family went to Tamaulipas, but a group of men in black told them to get back to Guerrero very quickly, otherwise they will be all killed. There is any organization helping the family because the members of the organization are scared. They have fear to work in Tamaulipas, and this is a part of the region which is already under the control by the organized crime. We have in 6 years of the government from President Calderon, 60,000 killed people, 20,000 disappeared people, and 160,000 forced displaced people. And there is a large group of journalists that have been murdered, who reported about the situation of security and organized crime in Mexico. Also, many defenders of human rights are dead or have been murdered. I lost in the last 3 years 13 colleagues who were working in human rights issues. So we can summarize that the government structures in some regions, mostly on the municipality level, are captured by the organized crime. We don't have a failed state. We have a very strong state, but we have weak governance structures. There is not really a possibility to solve conflicts and crimes through the justice system. So we need deep reforms, like the support of capacities of the judge to guarantee the autonomy of this system, and also a budget that can deal with these enormous problems. Only 2% of the crimes have been investigated and could be closed. The organized crime is making business with 23 illegal actions without being stopped. They are not only drugs, mostly they make business with human trafficking. And this is the fourth pillar of the economy in Mexico, the money coming from the organized crime. The use of military force and police and a public work is used since 6 years to get organized crime under control, but without big success. But the abuse of human rights increased 400%. The strategy completely failed. And now I want to switch off to the conclusions of the Panama meeting. And most of the conclusions have already mentioned by Ana Glenda, but I want to say that we as a civil society network, we are very worried that the situation of human rights in the region, we have a human rights crisis in the region. We disagree using the military forces in public security, and we demand the respect of the human rights and the protocols of using force from the public forces. We ask to support the development of democratic structures, not of the security ones. A solid democratic structure means security. We need to make an approach and a difference between terrorism and organized crime, as Ana Glenda said, because they have very different implications. The use of force should be always the last option. We should first implement prevention measures, the legal process, and the services of investigation. The strategy to combat or to fight against organized crime should respect the rule of law. The security forces should be sent respect the international protocols of using the force. They are the points we want to share with you that we discussed in Panama. And those examples I mentioned describe the enormous challenge for our organization to deal with organized crime and to deal with a situation as we are having now in Mexico and in the whole region in Central America and in Colombia. Thank you very much.